I was awakened from a deep sleep by the sound of my own scream. Alone in my apartment, I was 1,200 miles away from the people and the places that I had called home for my entire life. To this day, I don't remember the details of that dream. Just this wave of panic. Mom was in trouble, and I knew that if I couldn't get to her, she'd be gone forever. Mom's fine. Everything's fine. But it was 2 weeks until she would call with the news. Stage 3B, ductal carcinoma, breast cancer. Prognosis 12 to 18 months untreated. It was that day that I knew my life would never be the same. I recently sat down with my oldest brother on FaceTime to discuss some of the things that we went through and experienced in the time that we lost both of our parents. We look back and share how differently that experience was, but yet all the same. It feels so long since our dad died in his denial of dementia and Alzheimer's, but losing mom a few years later, that was my biggest heartbreak. I've never recovered from that. No matter what day it is, it feels like it was yesterday. My brother and I really just opened a can of worms with this conversation. It felt like we just skimmed the surface of what it's like to be a caretaker and lose someone close to you and just have that life altering experience. And it was a lot to discuss and a lot to open up about. And here's how our conversation went. Meet my oldest brother, Chris Welch. Well, good morning,
Good
brother.
morning. How are you?
I am good. Welcome to the Kidney Storm
Wow,
podcast.
I do feel privileged, I must say.
This is our first filming with a guest. Starting May off
Yeah.
right.
Well, I'm very proud that you've started on this journey, and I think it's a amazing opportunity to share things that you have experienced and things that have happened to you to be able to help others. So, not that many years ago, doing something like this wouldn't have been possible with the advent of affordable technology and uh, other things simply like the internet. This would have been very difficult to do. So it's neat to be able to share things and be human for others in ways that uh, you couldn't do not that long ago.
Well, and I think that is really important because that's my whole goal here is to help people that can't find help.
Right.
And even when technology was less available, it was much, much harder. You had to go to the library and find books, and those were a lot of times outdated and not up to current standards, especially when it's a medical
Right.
topic. So, being able to openly communicate with people and find people within seconds that are maybe across the country or across the world and be able to carry on a conversation. I mean, some of my closest friends are long distance, and I've made friends on the internet. And like, I have a kidney sister that I've gotten very close with, and we've never met in
Yeah.
person, but we communicate almost every day. And I feel like I can confide in her. And it's a really valuable thing to be able to just go out in the world and find the good people. So,
Something else along those lines is we're sitting here recording this, and it'll be edited and put together, and somebody 6 months from now or a year from now is going to watch this at 2 a.m. on a Tuesday and be blessed by it and learn something from it. And it's the cool thing to be able to put this together and have it available for people when and where they need it.
well, and that is the beauty of the internet is it never once you put it out there, it never goes away. Even if you
It's
wanted it to go
always
away, it
there.
wouldn't go away.
It's always there, whether you want it or not.
Well, I have a really important topic that I want to discuss with you specifically today. I feel like this is something that you and I have always really connected
Hmm.
on a much deeper level, as adults, as siblings. And it's one of the most important things to me in the world. Um, our
Hmm.
mother.
This was a journey that nobody expected to take. this was something that happened while a lot of other things were happening. And I would
Right.
say it for mom, it started many years before things got difficult. There were challenges taking care of dad, and so dad had experienced some growing issues with his physical health. He had what we think amounted to some sort of partial stroke that caused him issues with his mobility on his left side, and then he started having issues with memory, with dementia, and his eventual diagnosis was Lewy body dementia, Parkinson's, and Alzheimer's. And those last few years, especially the last year of helping him, were pretty difficult. And there was a lot of things that I learned. There was a lot of things that mom learned, and it was a challenge making decisions about how can we care for him, make decisions about can we afford this care that we want to use, can we keep family around him. There were decisions about we've got to have help, and we're going to have to take whatever help is available, meaning friends or family. And earlier on, even things like, Dad, you can't drive anymore. And me stepping
Oh,
in
that was
to say, this is just not safe, Dad. You can't do this. And Dad, being very
yeah.
independent, was not ready to to hear that. And later on, during his journey through this, her dad, so our grandpa Nelson, also started experiencing some end of life challenges, and he lived halfway across the country. We're in Texas, and he was in Alabama, and so she started traveling over there to help with that situation. And that was another. It was kind of being experienced together. So here she was doing caretaking on the home front, and then traveling to do caretaking on the remote side of the world. So
Well, and I think that was when mom and I, like, really, because I think I was 16 or 17 around the time, and we really started to have this special bond because we were, like, communicating cross country, but we're, like, living parallel
mhm,
lives. She's taking care of her dad and I'm taking care of our dad, and it was like, just going back with the stories and trying to support each other and motivate each other, and then you add, like, all of the travel times, and of course I didn't drive then. So if I had to go somewhere, I had to find somebody, or I had to, you know,
yeah,
cover my eyes and hope that dad could get us there, and there was a couple times that I had to do that. But I think that was like the beginning, like, I felt like I was always really close with mom, but that was the beginning of we're adults and we're having to do the same thing.
hmm
And it's not there's no like, "Oh, you're at this age, you should expect to be going through that." You never feel that way. I don't think anybody feels that way. Like, I mean, you and I both losing mom, I think I was 24 and you were 34. It's not like, "Oh, this is a good time for this."
that's what I was just going to point out is the unexpected nature of doing caretaking for a loved one, and I would say caring for somebody that is an immediate family member or a parent is unique. You can help with other people's family and that sort of thing, but there's nothing quite like caring for somebody that is right next to you. And it is never expected. It is never planned. It always comes when other things are going on, and you just have to learn how to cope with it and to deal with it. And to mom's credit, she did a pretty incredible job of juggling the two different care situations.
Mhm.
And all while this was going on, her caring for grandpa, for dad. I was getting married, had first child, working on second
Mhm.
kid. So in some ways, I was distracted by legitimate life, but also wanting to help and to
Absolutely.
assist as I was able. So just acknowledging as a family member and as a caretaker that things are challenging and difficult and you're not going to make perfect decisions, I think is a helpful thing to do. You're drinking from a fire hose a lot of the time, and uh, you're going to look back in hindsight and start to question decisions. And you just can't do that on a major level and start to be savage with yourself. There's always going to be some regrets in that sense. But one of the things I learned was I think both for mom and myself is you're going to make some great decisions, and then you're going to make some decisions that you might have done differently in hindsight. And yet, there's nothing you can
Right.
do to change that. You're just doing the absolute best you can under the circumstances, and it's the nature of the situation that dictates what's going on. So
When mom was going through this, you were around the age that I am now, and I can imagine that it didn't really again, it didn't really feel any better or any easier or make any more sense because sometimes when I think back to being, you know, at the end of my teen years, be like, oh, well, I could have done something
yeah,
differently, or maybe I should have made this choice, or if this had happened now, I would have said this or done this or taken this action. But there's no like, and that's something that mom would have said is no regrets. I have that on my keychain that she gave me. And she just lived life to the fullest and a lot of times didn't say that she was in pain or discomfort or any of that.
yes. So um, kind of advancing the timeline a little bit, she had dealt with breast cancer the first time around, and I'll admit that I was only uh, partly involved in that process. It seemed like something she was able to deal with. We had baby number two by that time, and I was in the middle of just trying to establish a family life, and so I wasn't as involved
Right.
as I maybe wish. Looking back again, one of those things to try not to get hung up on regret with, but
Well, and I think y'all moved a couple times around that window as well.
yeah,
So,
that's
dealing with the kids
started a new
and
job.
bouncing back and forth and stuff like that.
And
Right.
so just the busyness of existence. But we lived in the same town,
Right.
still seeing her on a regular basis. One of my fond memories that I will never pass up is walking into the Peach Basket, which is the name of the health food store that she worked at for a very long time, and she would see me walking in and kind of bounce off the floor and be
The little
like,
giddy
"Oh, you're
bounce.
here!" And there was just nothing like that. Experiencing her joy at your simple existence, and
Mhm.
I would say I would encourage anybody that's still got your mom, still got your dad, spend all the time that you can with them, whether it's a random 20-minute visit during the middle of the day, whether it's a phone call, whether it's a FaceTime
Mhm.
call. You will never regret the time that you spend with them. And the the burdens that you think you carry in helping them or helping others will pale in comparison to the memories that you build by doing that. So never miss an opportunity if you possibly can to spend time with that person, no matter what it looks like. If it's long, if it's short, everything will matter so much more when they're not here.
Well, and I mean, I come across people now that are like, "Oh man, I was fighting with my mom the other day. It's so annoying. Like, I just don't want to deal with it." And I'm like, "Oh, if I could fight with my
I would do
mom,
it.
I would give you a lot of money
I
right
would do
now."
it. Uh,
Even and we did have a lot of um We had some lengthy letters that went back and forth when she was I think it was when she was between her first and second diagnosis, when she was trying to figure out what she was doing with continued
Right.
treatment, and as the person that was on the phone with her, at least an hour a day, that was my contribution being at a distance, but there was a lot of things we disagreed on about her treatment, but I had to come to a point and I had a few people tell me, that is her life and it's her choice, and you don't want to spend that last time arguing when that's maybe all you have left.
That was
And I think at the very very last minute I realized that it was that last minute and that none of that stuff mattered, but it was, a very short period of time it felt like.
that was something that I had to experience as well. So she fought through the first cancer round. She did chemotherapy and radiation, and it was absolutely rough. It was just crazy, and we got to, you and I have talked about this. We started looking back, like, mom's not that old. Why did she get this diagnosis? She had been eating
Mhm.
and taking care of herself pretty well over the years in general. But what we feel very strongly about now was that it was caretaking, traveling across the country, dealing with dad here at home, and just the stress of making decisions and losing the relationship that was there, and it turning into
Right.
something that was very, very different. And that's one thing I think is worth noting is when you have a spouse that has memory problems, dementia problems, those sort of related issues, that is one of the more difficult things for the other spouse to deal with, because in dad's case, he still thought that things were pretty normal. He didn't
Normal.
think that things were that bad in that sense. And so, from his perspective, the relationship was much the same as it has always been. But from mom's side of things, it was very, very different and very challenging. And that is one of the things that I think you just have to accept. And if you're the person that's kind of standing alongside the spouse or your parent, you just have to support them as best you can, and help them as much as you can, and just realize that things are not the same, and you can't expect them to be the same, even though that person that is not well doesn't understand it. In fact, particularly dementia patients uh, have a difficult time adjusting to the new reality, and in many cases they never do.
Mhm.
They think that things are just as they always have been, and they don't even realize that they can't remember what they ate yesterday, but they may remember a story from 30 years ago, and only you are
Right.
actually seeing the true symptoms, and they're blinded.
It turns into, when you start to, as the caretaker or the spouse or any family member, when you are treating them differently because of their condition, they start to like kind of get suspicious.
Yeah,
And they're like, well, why is everybody acting like this? And why can't I make that decision? And why is everybody just taking over everything?
yeah.
But things weren't the same. And, they were both old fashioned,
Hmm.
their mindset. So they weren't the type to like really vent about each other to their children. And they weren't trying to put that load on us. Mom did a little bit towards the end just because we had to talk about it because I'm telling her what's going on and, what I'm dealing with. And she's having to do the same thing on the other end. We're sharing updates and trying to keep the family updated, and which it gets a lot. It's like, do you send an email? Do you send a group text? And there was even less communication just, that few years ago, just to make sure that everybody was in the loop.
Right. And I don't think that naming the years of when all this happened is necessarily helpful, but I think maybe the span of this is somewhat beneficial. I would say, looking back at when mom started caring for dad, it was another, and this is a debatable point, that there was probably 7 to 8 years of a growing level of dementia and other issues that dad experienced. And then, probably in the middle of
Right.
that, 4 years in or so, she started helping grandpa. So the extra travel and that sort of thing. And then, um, when dad passed away, what was it, another year or a little bit more when she got the cancer
It was
diagnosis?
about a year, yeah.
Um, and
Right.
then from when dad passed away, it was another 4 years to when she passed away. And she didn't even make it to 60. And I think it really did come down to all of the stress and decision making and other things that were these unquantifiable stressors that she had experienced. Again, like I said, my mom had been in good health. She was not out of shape. She ate fairly well, but there were these factors that you couldn't quantify that affected
Right.
what eventually took place. So,
Well, and I can say very clearly, from my experience with Jeff and the kidney failure, one of the things that all of the doctors tell you, every single one of them, is keep your stress levels low. Your body reacts to how much stress you have, and you can eat good and you can exercise and you can do all of that. But if you're just stressed out all the time and I feel like mom was in that state where like her stress level was
hmm,
here and it was just constant. Like, she didn't even know anymore. Like, she wasn't even thinking, "Oh, I'm stressed out," because she just got used to that, like, status quo. And so, like, if it went down, it was like, "Oh, that was a good day." But that's one of the biggest things is your body reacts to stress. It tells you, and it may be different for everybody. It could be gastrointestinal issues. It could be headaches. It could be fatigue. There's so many different things that your body is just saying, "Hey, chill out."
yes, yes.
But if you don't know how to read it, if you don't know what it is and you don't learn your own body and what those codes are for yourself, you may see it on somebody else, but you don't even realize your own.
Well, that brings up an interesting point. Um, you know, I have always kind of hated the buzzword self care. And I'm like, that's it's just so selfish, and you're just thinking about you. And I never have appreciated the phrase, but I have come to understand it in the right sense of the word, as being the way that you are able to cope on an ongoing basis with the stress that is happening in your life. And it looks different for all of us. And one of the things that mom did try to do, and had some success doing, was stopping to do things that she enjoyed to do, stopping to
Mhm.
spend time with people and friends and close friends that blessed her and helped her in who she was. And that is something that I think is valuable. You are going to, as a caretaker, run into the burnout stages. And to
Right.
keep from getting there, you have to unplug. You have to not be there 24/7. And that is an acknowledgement and a statement you have to make to yourself and say, I cannot be here all the time. I do need help. I do need to accept help, and it is okay to do that. And it will allow you to go longer through the situation if you acknowledge that for yourself and say, I'm going to have to stop right now. I've burned the candle as
Mhm.
far as it can burn. Or maybe you need to
Right.
not burn the candle as far as it can burn, and leave a little bit of yourself. And it's not selfish to do that. It's actually the right thing to do in the situation. because you will be a better caretaker, a better helper for that person in the long run if you take some time, accept the help that's being offered, pay for some help, whatever the situation allows,
Right.
to be able to breathe, spend some time with people that build you up. It matters. It's it's a big deal to be able to self care in that sense of the word.
You want to give 100%, but maybe doing your best is 40%, and that 40% for you is 100%. And if you can't give everything that day and you have to keep some of that energy and momentum for yourself, then you're putting the mask on yourself on the airplane before you help others. Because if you're out of air and you have nothing left, then how are you going to help other people? So you have to start at square one.
And it's just a realization and an acknowledgement that you make, and you can't feel ashamed about it. You can't feel guilty about it, because the guilt and the shame are going to kind of rear their ugly head, and you just can't let that. It can cripple you by saying, "Well, no, I've got to keep helping. I've got to keep doing what we've been doing. I've got to stay by the
Yeah.
bedside. I've got to do this and do that." You will reach a level of burnout so much faster if you don't pause, if you don't take that time. And I experienced that with mom towards the end of um, her experience, and it was not fun. Um, Towards the second bout that she had with cancer, I don't know that she if she expected it, and you and I have talked about this a lot as well. She realized before any of us, naturally, that things had gotten worse again. She had been marked free of the previous bout with cancer. She'd had the single mastectomy, and everything was going pretty well. She had,
She got to ring the bell.
yeah, she had gotten her hair back, and she had
Mhm.
continued to swim and kind of live her life. And we had just gotten, let's see, I'm trying to remember the timeline here. Well, we were pregnant with baby number three, and she knew that things were getting worse, but she didn't tell anybody. And looking back, we see that she started doing things and spending time with people in expectation that things weren't going well. And she still didn't tell anybody. She didn't tell me. She didn't tell you. And she didn't confide in any of the other family members, so far as we know. And yet, the cancer had returned aggressively. It had spread to other parts of her body, and she was starting to experience some pain, some discomfort. And earlier in the year that she passed away, she started sharing a bit more. She started letting us know things weren't too good. You'll probably have to help me with the exact day. And she had asked me to go with her to get a prognosis, a diagnosis. And we sat down. It was kind of a stormy day, as I remember,
I remember that.
and
Yeah.
sat down with him, and he was pretty frank. And he said, unless you move forward with significant treatments, meaning another set of chemo and radiation, you're looking at 6 months at the outset. And pretty emotional moment. And we went out and sat in the waiting room, and it started pouring down rain. And she was very emotional. Um, I think I was emotional, but trying not to be outwardly so.
Yeah, you had to be the
Um,
the
you
carrier.
know,
'Cause I remember you called me that day, and you were sending me videos of the rain out the window, and you're like, "We're just sitting in the waiting room,
yeah,
just processing."
yeah. And she called some people. I called some people, and just kind of realizing what was happening. I think this is an important point to realize, and I think this could be true for many end of life situations. Is he said 6 months, and it was a whole lot closer to 6 weeks. It was a matter of
Yeah,
weeks before she passed on, and I think that is true for other diagnoses as well. Don't necessarily trust that the number you've been given is what's actually going
right.
to happen. And we started doing things with her. We took her out. She was able to come out to our house, and we did a mobile sonogram. She was able to see sonogram, so that was really neat. But we also realized and recognized that it was getting difficult for her just to do normal things. Going out to a restaurant, she would normally, clean up a plate, and that wasn't
Mhm.
happening anymore. And I could tell that she was in discomfort. I think the other thing that I did not realize until later, and I'm talking inside this span of weeks from the official prognosis diagnosis to when she passed away, it took me too long to acknowledge and realize that this was really happening. I did not want to say, well, mom's about to die. I didn't want to let myself believe that. And I would say it was only about maybe 3 weeks prior to when she passed away that I was like, this is truly happening, and there's no denying it.
Do you remember calling me that night?
Gosh,
You, because I was still working nights, and you had called me during the day, but I was asleep, and I still have the voicemail. But you called me, and I woke up to that, and you said, "Get here as fast as you can."
I think I do remember that now. That that was not an easy that was not an easy thing to do. I wish that I had realized it earlier. But again, no regrets in that sense.
No, it was the push that I needed to
Right,
grab my laptop and book the plane flight, and then I put on my shoes and I ran down the street as fast as I could, because that's when I was a teenager and I was dealing with dad, that was what I did, just to burn off that frustration and kind of reset your system. It never made the problems go away, but it kind of gave you something else to focus on, like catching your breath.
right.
But yeah, I do remember that very, very specifically.
And then things started happening rather quickly. People started coming to visit that had not seen mom in a long time.
Mm.
That was a great blessing. Reaching out to people, letting them know on a very real level what was happening, and saying, "This is the time if you want to see her." And I would encourage anyone to, take advantage of that as early as possible. And there was a point at which in those last few weeks where I kind of reached a breaking point in that sense. It was overwhelming because I was kind of the
Mhm.
funnel point for caretaking, for arranging this schedule, for dealing with hospice and palliative care, and more than likely we'll get to that point where it's just kind of like four bells ringing all at once, and it may be
Mhm.
with people in the room, you may be sitting by yourself, and if you can just realize it's okay to feel the overwhelming, and that's kind of going back to realizing that you need to step away, that you need to de-stress, but at the same time you probably will have one of those moments. I was very grateful to have an understanding boss at work. I was able to take off
Mhm.
days without hurting my position.
Well, and I I have talked about in a previous episode about having an understanding boss, which I did when I was taking care of Jeff, but when I was trying to go back and forth with mom and trying to make travel arrangements, I did not have that. And I was young and I felt that constant stress to say, "Oh, what if they fire me?" Okay, so what if they did fire me? That's my mother.
Yeah,
And I would proudly say, "Oh yeah, I got fired because I was going to see my mom," you know?
absolutely. And I'll tell you right now, I do not remember anything I was doing at work at that time. It's a complete blank,
Exactly.
and that is perfectly fine.
I think that's been an important part of growing up, and once you get past, like, 25, you start to see and feel things a lot differently, and I definitely feel that in my life, and I know that we both kinda went through that time frame differently, but going back to, that final window, I think having you as the person that was present, even though I couldn't be, was one of the biggest gifts that I was able to have in that scenario, even though it was not a positive time. But you and I really connected during that window, and it allowed us to kind of help each other take care of her,
Yes,
even though you were doing a lot more of the grit and emotional, you know, because I was there with her after her mastectomy for a short time. And I had that one instance where I was helping her with her clothes or something, and I saw how much pain she was in.
mm,
And I was like, I can't fix this.
no,
And I was like, hey mom, I'm gonna go grab something out of the laundry room for you. I'll be right back. And I went in the other room and I closed that sliding door and I just bawled my eyes out for like 2 seconds, wiped it off, and then went back in there and I was like, okay, what do we need to do next? But that was like my only true insight into being present with her during that painful time and not being able to help, which is a feeling I'm very familiar with Jeff's situation. But it's a whole different thing when you know that that end is coming. And I think just being able to know that we still had each other
hmm,
and that was, and that's something that we still do to this day. If there's something, oh, I want to tell mom this, or mom would understand this, or mom would appreciate that, we know that we still all have that little bit of her in us that we can kind of get to embrace even though she's not here. So I do appreciate that, and just the connection that you and I have been able to kind of recreate as adults and not just our, goofing off as kids. And of course, I'd still go to the air shows and do all that stuff, but um, that was very valuable to me to know that there was someone there with her that was always checking on things and that was responsible and made sure that any caretakers that were helping her were, being responsible and
yes.
respectful and all of those things. So I do I do still think about that a lot.
And that is an aspect that is a unexpected blessing that comes after the fact. I believe is it did allow me to establish new family connections with you, with the
Mhm.
other siblings, with our uncle Lowell, who's mom's
Mhm.
brother, and out of great pain did come some rather beautiful things, and that will come in time, and so you can look forward to that as somebody who goes through these things. But if I could, I did want to kind of touch on both mom and dad's like final, literal last 48
Yeah,
hours or so, and those
absolutely.
last week or so, when it comes to end of life, genuine, the time where this person is drawing down to the last day, there will be challenges that you face as a caretaker where you are struggling to to ratify your decisions. You're like, Are they comfortable enough? Am I not doing enough? Am I just taking the decisions of the doctor, or or the other professional care that's here, and just should I be doing something different? And I think to that I would just say you are doing the best that you can. In hindsight, I don't think that I would have done anything drastically different for either mom or for dad. Neither of them were, I would say, present in their last few days, or responsive. And that can be difficult in and of itself. They're still alive, but they're not saying anything. They're not really doing anything, and that is difficult. And just taking the professional advice of the medical staff that you have, and making the best decisions that you can. That is all that you are able to do. And I don't. In the moment, I was fighting some decisions. I was talking with my wife about things, and we were like, "Is this right? Is this what we're supposed to do?" Um, Focus on give.
Because you feel like I'm imagining you feel like you're having to be responsible for that decision for
Yeah.
everyone involved, not just, "Oh, this is what's best for me and my family," but you're saying, all the different family members and their families and people that are close and that wanna be involved. So that has to be a lot of pressure,
It,
and
it
I hate
was.
that it was that way.
It was, and I would say that as somebody in those positions, you're just going to go through that. And I look back, and I'm thankful for the input that I got from various people. I'm thankful for the input of my wife, and you, and my brother Daniel, who is a paramedic and firefighter. He had some input, and you just make the best decision that you can under the circumstances, and focus on the comfort of that person. Uh, they're not going to get better. They're not going to resurrect. They're not going to, and you're at that acceptance stage, and seeing that as you're taking it for what it is, and and
And
then
it was very comforting to have Daniel's input because you knew that he was coming from the right place and he wasn't somebody that was just gonna go Google search it, he
right,
had been through all of that experience and knew exactly what he was talking about, and he knew that he could bring that comfort to us.
yes, and this is my personal opinion as well. Take it for what it is. With both mom and dad, we were down to the last few hours, and we knew that it was. I knew that it was close. Um, for mom, personally, I was able to, um, just a few hours earlier, um, read some scripture to her and say, "Mom, you can go. It's okay. You can go." And she didn't respond. I couldn't tell that she was listening. I believe she probably did hear me. And then with dad, he was even more progressed than that. And what I wanted to say was that I was not in the room when either of them passed away, at that moment. With mom, I believe it was Lowell that was there at the time, and with
Mhm.
dad, it was my father-in-law actually, and then a very close family friend. And some people would say that they would feel guilty about that. I did not, and I had spent the time drawing up to that. I had
Right.
invested, and it's not like there's some sort of level that you reach that you feel like, oh, I've done enough.
Mm-mm.
It's not that. And yet, I am. I do not look back and regret that I was not there in the room. And I would just want to share that with anybody that may have dealt with that in the past. The time that you want to invest, the time that you don't want to miss, is before that final
Well
day.
before
You,
that.
you you want to
Yeah.
you want to spend the time with that person as you know them, if possible, and then in those last maybe months and weeks, that is the time that you'll remember as valuable. But sometimes you could be there at their bedside, sometimes you won't, and it's okay. So
Either one is okay.
that was my personal experience, and just thankful that they both passed peacefully, and that I had been able to be there in the days, weeks, and months prior. Hopefully, that helps someone. Just my personal perspective on that.
Well, and I think in tandem with that was my perspective of those same events both times. Um, when dad passed, I had moved away several months prior, but when I left the day before I got on the plane, I had a really nice conversation with him.
Mm,
We sat down and talked. I explained to him because, if I had done it any sooner, he would have forgotten and gone and knocked on the
mhm.
bedroom door asking where I was. But I told him the day before I left, and we had a really nice talk, and it was very peaceful. And it was different than a lot of the more frustrating discussions that we had during that time.
Right.
And so that was my closure with him, that I knew that he was okay with me leaving and he felt like I could handle the world on my own in that
Hmm.
way.
Hmm.
And a lot of people, there was several times where people said, "Oh, you need to go back. Your dad's getting worse. You need to go back." And I didn't. I know what state he was in when he did pass, and I've thought about it and I've asked myself, but I don't feel like I did anything wrong by removing myself. I came back to spend time with the family after the fact, and we did the memorial, and it was
Hmm.
beautiful, and we got to see family members that we had not seen for a long time. And then with mom, well, David had to practically drag me out of that room,
Hmm.
because I knew that it was time, and I had spent that time with her. And I also wanted to say on that point, um, the reading and the talking to is 100% worth it,
Yes.
because there were times that certain things got said in that room that she would flinch or shift in the bed or react in some way. There was things that I knew she was not happy to hear being said, and she like jerked in the bed. So if you are questioning that that person might not be able to hear you, just assume that they can,
Yeah.
because
One
even
hundred
if
percent.
it's not legible words that they're able to clearly hear, maybe they just know that murmur of your voice,
Yes.
or it's calming and soothing just to know that there's people in the room. And I sat with her for so long, and we had another close family friend that sat with her and read the Bible while we got to go and all sit together and eat dinner. And that was a gift as well, because none of us wanted to leave that room, but sometimes you have to. And I think that was one of the biggest reality checks that I had after the fact was, we have to really focus and give attention to the people that are right in front of us,
Yeah.
because they're still here. And you know just because we lost both of our parents to more later in life scenarios that are more common as you get older,
Hmm.
that doesn't mean that that's how the rest of us are going to go someday.
Exactly.
It could be anything.
Exactly.
I
That
mean, I could have fought the anesthesia and not woken up
100%.
after,
a hundred
and
percent.
I've got one kidney, but I am no longer useful. That absolutely could have happened.
It brings up uh, to me a sad aspect of American society, I think, and um, I would say this would be something that most people would probably agree with. Why does it take a wedding or a funeral to get us all in one space?
Hmm.
And I think we need to work hard to change that, because spending time with family should not take an act of God. Unfortunately, sometimes it does. And I would say work harder at it, because there is no substitute. Even FaceTime and the other technology tools that we enjoy uh, are not. It's not the same as being under the same roof and in the same space. And bringing as we've gotten older, now we can bring our kids together and let them spend time together. There is no substitute, and it is worth every amount of finance and effort to make those days happen.
Well, and I remember when we were all together last summer, sitting in the living room after dinner, and everybody had kind of just gone to do their own thing, but our Uncle Lowell was on the floor with the next generation playing with blocks. And I remember just going, "This is incredible. This is the same man that used to come to our house when we were this age and hold us upside down by our feet and chase us around the yard and make funny sounds and make us laugh." And that was always something that we looked forward to. And I'm just sitting there in awe saying, we we started the next cycle, you
It
know?
was surreal. It really was. And if you don't go to the effort, if you don't take the time off, if you don't make the financial investment, if you don't say this is important, you will never experience those things. And it is that particular visit. What was it? 3 days, barely, and
Mhm.
some change. But it was worth it. And we pulled in people literally
But that
from
was
around the world to make that happen. So
and that was 3 days after, not having that scenario with all of those specific people. What was there, 13 of us in 9 years?
pretty much, pretty
And
much.
that's a lifetime for some of us, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
There were some introductions that day.
Yes, there were. Yes, there were. There were people who had never seen each other. So that was
But, those people crawled up on my lap and hugged me like they had known me forever, and it was hard not to just cry while we're having a conversation because those people, gave me that love and attention without even having ever seen my face before.
there is a connection with blood family that is pretty incredible. And if I was to sum all of our conversation up, I would say that spending time together with your family, whether it's your immediate family, meaning, I'm the dad, I'm talking about my wife and my kids, or the family that is not under your roof. There, like we just said, there is no substitute. And it will be one of the things that you look back on as filling your cup in a way that nothing else does. And you can make all the money in the world. You can have all the experiences in the world. You can go to concerts and all the things that we enjoy as the human experience, but there is no alternative or substitute that meets what it's like to be together as a family.
Well, we do have to wrap it up for today, but I really appreciate you taking the time and on short notice. That was not my original plan when I called you the other day to ask questions, but I am more than grateful that it worked out this way. And I always enjoy spending time. FaceTime is great. So
Absolutely.
I
Um,
thank you for delving into one of the tougher topics with me.
Absolutely, and maybe next time we can discuss my collection of model airplanes and funny T-shirts. So
It's
I'm
we
a
need
wealth
more
of
time.
information. But yes, this has been a great pleasure, and I, for one, as you mentioned earlier, the relationship that you and I now have because of all of these things that have collectively happened is something quite different and quite special, but because of the difficulties that we've gone through.
Well, that was a great start, but we definitely just scraped the surface on being a caretaker and going through all of these life changes and just feeling like you're making the right decisions for your loved ones. And losing a parent is not something that you can prepare for. It's not something that anyone is expecting. And you may be sitting there watching them fade away, but you will never be ready for that experience. And it's going to be different for everyone. It's going to be a lot to handle no matter what angle you take it from. We may have to expand this into a little mini series just so that we can get into the grief and life changes that come with losing someone close to you. But as my brother said earlier, There are a lot of beautiful things that can come from going through something like this in your life. And as traumatic as it may be, sometimes it can redirect your life path and give you something better that you can hold on to for the future. Once you experience a loss like this, a loved one that's close to you, your body and your mind goes through this change where you just want to say yes to everything. You don't want to miss an opportunity, and you might change how you dress, how you eat, how you walk, how you carry yourself, because you know that you have less opportunities in your life after that person is gone, but you have to take that on. We are granted new joys, new appreciations, and a love for things that we might not have given a chance otherwise. It was very hard for me to admit that a lot of beautiful things in my life were attributed to those losses, both parents. But as soon as I realized that that was part of their gift to me as my parents, I started to see everything differently. Thank y'all so much for the love and support. Thank you for watching this video. If you've gotten this far, I know this topic must mean something to you as well. And if there's anything you want to discuss on the next video, let us know in the comments and we'll try to cover as much as we can. See y'all next week.